company, one needs to know, what does that mean? Is there something that she totally owns or that her family owns, and what part does she have to play, if any? And go into some detail rather than make a connection the way connections are made in anti-Semitism and by Hitler saying his sister is married to a Jew, and so you then do certain condemning things based on that, instead of stopping to say, well, wait a minute, he hasn't spoken to his sister for 20 years. He has nothing to do with her. So whether she's married to a Jew or a vegetarian or a person from Indiana,
doesn't make
what does that have to do with anything?
Well, it might have a lot to do with it.
It might.
Maybe
Not if he never talks to his sister. And
maybe he stopped talking to her when she married a Jew.
It might.
But he's saying in the case of that they haven't talked since way before that.
The real point is you have to find out and evaluate it in some way and put it together carefully with other pieces of information instead of leaping to a conclusion.
I like my conclusions. I can see if I'm right or wrong.
What?
I like my conclusion about Putin and Trump.
I know, but Dad's saying really important stuff.
I know it's
Don't gloss over.
No, I don't mean to gloss over it, but...
You can do whatever you want. Anybody can do whatever they want, and that's one way that we have...
A Trump elected.
What the world is considering today. Anyway, when Rupert Murdoch bought the Village Voice, then it was said immediately, oh, that's the end of the Village Voice. It's now owned by that son of a bitch who has all these disgusting publications, and he's got Fox News and all the rest.
And it turned out it was just his holdings.
What?
And it turned out it was just his holdings, right?
That it's what?
One of his holdings.
It wasn't actually...
No, it was owned by him. However, an agreement was made in arranging for the purchase, which he signed in any case, but it still raises questions that one can't say, I know. What it raises is you might have to look further. But what he signed was an agreement that he would keep his hands off the Village Voice, and that he wouldn't go there, he wouldn't have meetings with the people who run it, he wouldn't have anything to do with hiring of people, he wouldn't suggest anybody to be hired, he was going to keep his distance, but he would
Profit.
He would be an owner, and he stayed an owner for 6 or 8 years, something like that. And then he got bored, or it wasn't making enough money.
And he sold it.
And he washed his hands of it. So, but at no point did it become a Murdoch publication in the sense that Fox News was a Murdoch, or still is, a Murdoch enterprise in which he still plays a direct part, or turned over a good deal of it now that he's older to his son.
No, he's under the table.
Or a lot of it wound up with an ex-wife that he was married to for a couple of years, but his arrangements apparently put things in her hands. But anyway, various questions like the matter of that I was just reading the review about. I haven't read the books, big books, which I haven't read, and I have read very little, and you've read a lot less.
And I've read even less.
Yes, both of you have read a lot less than I have, and I've read a minuscule. But in the review, and so I point out that that's only as far as I've gone, is a review by how many people? One person wrote a review. But he emphasizes how both of the people two scholars who wrote the two books were as careful as possible to document and detail everything that they were writing. And what's the most that they can say? Finally, maybe, if you were looking for a summation of a 500-page book with footnotes and everything, is that, as the reviewer mentions, is that no matter who was president in the last 3 or 4 presidents that we've had in this country, they have all been taken in and controlled by influences which want this country to be an empire and to tell other countries what to do. And the worst person at that is the current president, showing
we read that book by Walter Wink that started out with exactly that point.
That sort of predicted what was on the way. That's true. There have been various people, when they're concerned about, will we ever have peace in the country and in the world? Will we ever go out and be helpful rather than go out to control and conquer? So what we've ended up with is a nightmare when Trump will say things like, all these countries haven't paid their way. NATO's no good. They haven't paid their way. Well, that's not what NATO was set up for, so that people would pay their way. It was set up to try to bring the world peace. But then the question is, how much does anybody care about that? And it's for each person to ask themselves, how much do I care? How much do you care? How much do you care? You can't just flip it off and say, oh, I want there to be peace in the world. Oh, you do? And if that's the case, as Kamala Harris referred to last night talking to Rachel Maddow, what are you doing? What are you going to do?
Lindsay, do you have time to see movies?
Anything?
It's 9 o'clock.
Yes, and if you want to feed doggies and see a movie and everything. So that's how it goes.
I have time to feed the doggies.
Mm-hmm.
That's all?
Well, we could see a little part of a movie. You want to eat, buddy?
What's your